Evening and welcome along to episode 360 of the Total Saints podcast, your home for all things Southampton Football Club. Brought to you by our TSP Patreon community. We couldn't make the show each week without your loyal support. Thanks to Boshy Bosh 9269, who's joined the TSP supporter tier on YouTube. Chris and Harry Hicks have joined our supporter tier through Patreon. And hello to James Ravenscroft, who's joined the Francis Benali tier on Patreon as well. So thank you all very much. Coming up this week on the podcast, Leicester City, it's happening again. Another game against the Foxes and another win, this time in the FA Cup. 2-1 after extra time, the final result. On a good day for the Saints Academy, there's plenty to talk about. We'll review the game in just a moment. And it's back to league action on the weekend. Nathan Jones returns to St Mary's with his Charlton side. So we'll look ahead to that one. My name is Martin Stark, and joining me this week, Steve Grant is the owner of Saints Web. Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter at the Daily Echo, and Tom Pranke is a freelance football writer and Saints fan. So let's start with the cup game, shall we? A James Bree winner in extra time at St Mary's secured a second win of the week over Leicester. This was a very different game to the one on Tuesday evening, but we are through to the fifth round of the FA Cup with that 2-1 win. And Alfie, Tonda described it as a big day for the academy. That's the kind of sort of big takeaway, I guess, from the result.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of hyperbole from the club about it, to be fair. A big day for the club. I think, to be fair, they finished the game with 5 academy players on the pitch, obviously including Cam Bragg, who'd played 120 minutes and is more of a first-team player nowadays anyway. But with 4 young lads alongside him, Cyle Larin, Nick Oyakunle, Joe O'Brien-Whitmarsh, and then one more whose name has escaped me, unfortunately. It's to be fair, to hang in there and get over the line is really impressive. And obviously James Bree continues his form of scoring winners in cup games for Saints. Obviously scored in the Carabao Cup second round last year in the 87th minute, scored the 93rd minute in the fourth round, and he scored the winning penalty in the third round at Everton. And he took that over into this season's FA Cup with a 109th minute extra time winner. So, fair play to him. And like you said, they're into the fifth round. A lot of experience for the academy lads who need that sort of thing to develop. And most importantly, a lot of rest into the legs of some senior players who obviously been putting a shift in the last week. Tom the Record said that Flynn Downs has been playing packed full of painkillers. Particularly at Leicester on Tuesday to fight through the pain barrier to play for the club. So for a weekend off for those guys, really important. It wasn't a game for the neutral, if we're being honest. It was a very dull, particularly the first sort of half. I think there was maybe one flashpoint where Amo-Ameyaw, who's back in the team for a first start since he joined the club, nearly scored an own goal. George Long sort of parried a shot towards him. It then hit him and bounced over George Long towards the goal, but Ryan Manning cleared it off the line. And then I can't remember too much else happening really for the rest of the game. And even the extra time was extremely dull. It was just men against boys. It was a case of hanging in there for Saints. But they did exactly that. And yeah, they're into the fifth round. Very good.
Happy days. It was more about the teams that finished rather than those that started, wasn't it, Steve? Because I think we made 10 changes. Leicester made 5 or 6, and they had to kind of bring out the big guns at the end and throw everything at it.
Yeah, it was impressive. Certainly when you compare the sides that the kind of lineups that finished the game, that we were able to get the win in extra time, even though, as you say, we've ended that game with 5 academy graduates on the field, only one of whom you would reasonably say is anywhere near the first team squad, and kind of a little bit of a patched up defence, and obviously a goalkeeper that nobody was expecting any fireworks from. So yeah, to have got through that tie shows there's a sort of deep-seated little bit of resilience maybe coming through there. Who knows? And we'll wait for that to be kind of thrown back in our face next week. But I think it also probably says a lot for where Leicester are at the moment, because I think if we were in their situation and we'd come down for this game, I think we'd have fully expected to lose to a team full of kids as well. So it is one of those where you take the win, you take all the positives that there were from it, and there were plenty. But there were probably not that many more likely obliging opponents left in the draw, I think, at the time. So I mean, you take it, and we're into the hat. It does mean fixture chaos on the horizon. With I think the Norwich game is already now moved because both of us have got through. And I think I'm right in saying that the quarterfinal, if either us or Ipswich are out, aren't they? So if either us or Wrexham get through, then Easter weekend's going to be all over the place, because obviously we're supposed to have 2 games that weekend, but the FA Cup will take precedence. So that could be fun and games, depending on who we get drawn. Obviously, we'll get Liverpool away in the next round, so it won't matter. But,
or I did think maybe Norwich, because then we might end up playing them twice in a week, like we did with Leicester.
God, yeah, please not.
So anybody but Liverpool or Norwich, really. Tom, it's all about momentum as well, I think, isn't it? It's important to get a win. Obviously, the league is more important, but there's just a nice sort of feeling back at the place that's been lacking for a few months.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think that's really what we've been asking for, to look forward to going to games again, and I definitely am at the moment. I think I saw Duncan Holly's tweet that we've used 42 players now, I think, this season, and the most for 100 odd years or so. And yeah, I mean, you could sort of spin that stat in any direction you want to, really. I mean, probably that talks about the lack of momentum we've had for a lot of the season, the disruption, the constant changing of the back three as well. But actually, yeah, if just to echo what everyone said, really, the FA Cup clearly not a priority for us, for Tonda, from his team selection, understandably so. So if you're going to go through and keep winning, keep the momentum, that's exactly how you want to do it, isn't it? Like Alfie said, resting those players that absolutely need the rest. Some valuable experience for some of our more promising youngsters, and a few players. Edozie, I think, really nice for Matsuki, who I think is really the one pushing very strongly for perhaps a place in the starting lineup in the league to again play and show up well. So yeah, I think momentum is the word. And I mean, it's interesting. I was sort of looking at the youngsters and the makeup of them, and I know, Alfie, you see a lot more of them than I do, but it's starting to look like quite a lot of centre midfielders in there, for example, aren't there? I mean, we've got our, I suppose, 3 who are going to be playing mostly, but if Romeu, steps up and improves the levels he's shown since he returned, and then you got, obviously Bragg, Sesse, Barnaby Williams, I presume, they'll need to look at loans for some of those players at some point. But yeah, it's really good to see. It gives the crowd another good reason to sort of feel positive and get behind young homegrown players. So great. Yeah, on to Charlton with that momentum still there and in good spirits.
I suppose the other end of that scale, Alfie, is Romeu. We promised a few minutes for him. I think he played an hour, didn't he? How did he do? Did it feel to you like he was getting back to being somewhat useful?
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't expect him to start the game, even when he was promised a big chunk of minutes, to have come in completely from the cold, straight from the start. Fair play to him. And look, he was fine. I thought Cam Bragg did really well alongside him, and Cam Bragg obviously did the job for the entire game. But for the hour we got out of Romeu, I think he was pretty much what everyone could have expected. I think obviously he's probably not going to be important, I don't think, in the first team this season. I'd be surprised, because Tom mentioned the congestion there. Obviously, Shea Charles, Caspiander, and Cam Bragg, and someone else who started Flynn Downs, of course, who I've already mentioned, Flynn Downs, yeah. So it's one of those positions where he's maybe not going to play often, but he deserves those minutes, I think. If he's been training the way that people talk about him and stuff like that, he obviously does. But the 2 players that I thought made a real case, and Tom's already mentioned one of them being Matski, I totally agree with him. Tom Fellows has looked a little bit off the boil in the last couple of weeks, and we know he's a brilliant player. He can definitely get back there, but Matski is sort of ready there and ready to take that place if needed. And Samadozi obviously wins the penalty for the Cyle Larin opener in stoppage time of the first half. And again, Samadozi, I felt, took sort of 5 or 10 minutes to get into the game, to start getting his touch right. But when he did, he was constantly going at the right back, and he ended up getting his just desserts for being cut down by Caleb Okoli, who cost whatever Steve said last week, 15-20 million pounds or whatever. He looked good, Sam. So yeah, that's why I think it's a big day for the club, so to speak, because so many players who got minutes that needed them and ended up doing quite well.
Lots of positives. Definitely a penalty, Steve.
Yeah. I think when you look look back at it, you can clearly see that Okoli kind of waxes either his shin or his calf. Not quite sure which the contact is made on, but yeah, definite contact. And I mean, defenders will always think that they're innocent of anything. and but the ref was in a good position. I was interested watching the highlights back that Adam Blackmore's initial reaction was that he's gone over soft there, but once he's seen the replay, it's like, oh no, fair enough.
Confirmation bias with Samadozi, I reckon. Some players just have a perception that they're going to dive or whatever, and I'm sure that even though he didn't deserve it, he's probably one of them.
Yeah, well, and also, I'm not sure why a Dozy would dive in that situation when you would be like 3 yards from goal with a clear shot. But I mean, there is this kind of modern thing, isn't there, in the game where players do seem to prefer to play for a penalty rather than take on the shot themselves for whatever reason. But no, I mean that was clear enough for me. I think referee certainly thought so, and I think the replays bear that out. That was absolutely fair enough. The ref had a very strange game. I thought there was a lot of sort of niggly stuff going on that basically he didn't seem to be too bothered with, like any player having 3 or 4 sort of fouls in relatively short space. He was quite happy to kind of just give the fouls and get on with the game, which I guess is kind of fine in one aspect. But then you have this 10-minute spell where he decides, no, I'm just going to dole out 2 or 3 yellow cards, and just to make it kind of clear that I'm still nominally in charge here. But yeah, I mean, one thing was interesting was the claims of sort of heard claims from Leicester of offside for the winner. But I mean, if you look at when Manning,
fair player, didn't it?
Yeah, when Manning takes that free kick, Bree is like well sort of goal our side of the back of the sort of offside defensive line, and it's only when Patson Daka sort of stretches and gets a flick on it, because Nathan Wood was right behind him, waiting to head it goalwards. Yeah. And yeah, Daka gets a very good flick on it from a defensive perspective. But it happens to fall right on to where Bree was, and he's adjusted pretty well to kind of force it in at that near post where he did, because it's basically the only place where he's going to be able to score, I think. I don't think you're ever going to have the strength of your neck to be able to kind of crane it and put it back the other way. So yeah, great finish, and obviously Bree's record of coming up trumps in cup competition.
You called it, Alfie, didn't you, just before he came on, or as he was coming on? You kind of called that.
Well, you've got to pay attention to these things, and it was noticeable last year that he obviously did the 3 rounds in a row. But also incredible because Tom Derecker had literally nobody else senior to turn to in that moment. He'd obviously brought on Finn Azaz a bit earlier on for Cameron Archer, I believe it was. But other than that, it'd been 4 young lads on, and the only other players on the bench were Moses Cisse, who's actually been playing left back this season. Tom, you mentioned him in the midfield segment. He's been playing left back all season for some reason. I think they maybe see him there long term. And Tommy Dobson Ventura, who's a Sanders forward born, I think, centre back. So he had nobody else to turn to. It was only James Bree who was there, and fair play to him. He stepped up in the moment, delivered, and we're in.
Another player we got to see a bit more of, Tom, was obviously Cyle Larin, and that's someone that's come in quite recently. And penalty was all right. What have you kind of made of the whole Adam Armstrong going, Cyle Larin coming in, Ross Stewart? What are your thoughts on that? Because he was a bit of a handful yesterday.
Yeah, I think he started well, and that probably is the area of the squad where the depth isn't there. I mean, it's not still happening for Archer at all. So he's going to be key for us, and I think obviously we'll come on to the Charlton game. But I know Tonda, whether we like it or not, he likes to think perhaps sometimes 2 games at a time. So with the QPR game so soon afterwards, might Larin start one of those 2 games potentially? I mean, I think he uses his frame well, doesn't he? And I guess he's, the experience he's got, he seems to be a player who knows his own strengths, which is very helpful. I mean, I'd absolutely hope that Stewart is still the starting sort of, front man up there, if you like. But yeah, I think he's shown that he can absolutely add something. I mean, it's interesting as well. There are going to be games, perhaps a bit like where Larin scored against Watford, where, particularly if we do continue our momentum, teams are going to come to St Mary's particularly and really sit back against us, and we're going to have to, perhaps try and find something from a set piece and things. So yeah, that physicality I think comes at a good time for us, and yeah, definitely provides some support for Stewart, which we know we definitely need.
a bit of chat about his penalty record as well, Martin.
Oh yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't aware of Larin's penalty record.
Yeah.
He stepped up to take it. Is it bad? Because I had no idea.
It's actually not bad. I mean, Tom the Wrecker mentioned it in the press conference afterwards. I said, someone asked him, who decided to take penalty? He said, I've decided before the game that Carl would take the penalty. His record could be better, but he come with confidence. But I've checked his record, and to be fair, he scored the last 3 that he took in La Liga against Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and then Mallorca, I think. But he missed a couple back. He missed one for Canada on a big stage, missed a couple in Belgium, stuff like that. But that was sort of 4 or 5 years ago. So I think he scored his last 3. There's probably no one else at the club who's got that kind of record. So
Adam Armstrong's record wasn't great, was it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're absolutely fair enough, Steve. I guess that he's stepping up, but someone that could be pretty useful for the rest of the season. I think we saw that yesterday.
Definitely, and I mean he's kind of got that sort of bustling big man energy, hasn't he? He's not afraid to knock defenders around, not afraid to throw his weight around where he feels he needs to. I mean, stereotypical good touch for a big man and all that. Most of the time, not always. I think there was one that pinged off his shin and went miles, but other than that was absolutely fine. Links up with the midfielders when they can get within 10, 15 yards of him. That's kind of the job of the lone front man, isn't it? It's doing the ugly stuff, closing down centre backs and the goalkeeper when they've got the ball at feet. And I mean, you never expect to intercept the ball there, but the work still needs to be done. And yeah, he did that very well, I thought. And obviously he's a big kind of nuisance at set pieces. And it's interesting actually that for a team that kind of I don't think we've ever really associated ourselves as being good at set pieces. And yet a lot of our goals in the last couple of months have come from set pieces. Whether that's directly or indirectly. Obviously yesterday came directly from the cross from the free kick. The other goal was a penalty, of course. Leicester away. What was it? Manning's one was from a corner. I was trying to think. I think Stevens' one was a recycled free kick, wasn't it? Possibly. So yeah, we've been causing issues from set pieces for a while now, and it's just that kind of trying to get the monkey off our backs of not conceding stupid goals at the other end from that method is something that we've still got to work on. I mean, how you leave Oliver Skip in that much space. I mean, it's a good finish. I kind of wonder whether Long might have done better. It wasn't like he absolutely sort of rifled it or anything. He got a decent contact, but it wasn't perfect.
He was a little rusty, wasn't he? And obviously he wouldn't have been playing had it not been for Alex McCarthy and his injury.
No, but then you're a professional keeper. If you are on a proper pro contract, as he clearly is, you're expected to be ready. And in fairness, most of what he did was absolutely fine.
Yeah. And I'm sure he'd be upset about the goal. They'd be looking back at that and they'd be upset about it.
Yeah, he'll be a bit annoyed. I mean, he'd have been even more annoyed if he'd let in that one in the last minute. Was that the last minute of normal time?
Yeah. Was that Kwashi off the line?
Yeah. Twice
off the line.
You're right, yeah.
So yeah, if that one had gone in, then everybody would be. I mean, the mood here would obviously be very different now.
Yeah.
But he got away with it, and fair enough. As I say, his distribution was excellent. I thought there were a couple of counter attacks where opportunities where he kind of nailed that sort of almost sort of sideways style of kicking the ball clear, sort of arrowing it out into. I think it was a dozy in the first half, certainly, where he got it right into his feet and got us on the break very quickly. So that was good. Just the whole kind of catching things that possibly wasn't quite 100%, but hey, I got away with it. It's fine.
We probably need to talk about Cam Archer as well, Alfie. I mean, it's not been a week that he'll want to remember for a long time, has it? I mean, if we don't see him again until the 5th round, that's probably not a bad thing. It was not nice to see him sort of jeered off, but nothing was really falling for him again.
No, he got unlucky with he looked like he was going to have an open goal, which he obviously would have had at least a 50% chance of scoring from 4 yards out. But then Caleb Okoli comes up from absolutely nowhere and somehow gets to it, puts it behind for a corner ahead of him. So you just think that it's not his week sort of thing. That's one of those moments where I'm sure he had his head in his hands. Yeah, he's not been good enough this week. That's the fact. Steve's talking about he's a professional player on a pro contract. So obviously we feel sorry for him that it's not quite worked. And I'm not going to tell supporters what they can or can't do, but obviously it's not nice being jeered off like that. We've talked about it with Damien Downs before, talked about it with other players as well. But he's just not been anywhere near good enough this week, obviously. So he's one of those. He's definitely down the pecking order. Ross Stewart's obviously the first choice, as Tom said. Cyle Larin's there as backup. We probably don't need to see Cameron Archer play again in the league for a while. It doesn't suit him. The way we're going to be playing, it doesn't work for him anyway. So, yeah, I feel for Cam in that regard, because 2 weeks ago he thought he was on the way to Rangers, where a fresh start, a new set of fans who give you a chance. It feels like he's reached the end of his Saints spell, I think. I'd be amazed if he's still here in the summer.
Let's do Player of the Week, shall we? This is for both of the games. So we do the Tuesday night and yesterday. And I think for once we're going to be kind of like inundated and have to try and narrow this down to 4 kind of standout performances. Steve, do you want to kick us off with a couple of names? Who's kind of stood out for you across the 2 games?
I mean, probably the only player who's actually had an influence on both games will be Ryan Manning.
Yep.
Obviously got the equaliser up at Leicester and the assist for the... Well, it won't go down as an assist for him because of the defensive flick, but he's effectively got the assist for the winner yesterday.
Captain as well. Yeah. Are you surprised?
Yes. I mean, I guess Romeu would have been a more obvious choice, but then if you know that Romeu is only going to play an hour, and you're fairly certain that Manning is going to play 90 or 120 minutes, then no particular issue here. Romeu doesn't really need a piece of elastic on his arm to kind of show leadership in the centre of midfield when he's on his game. Romeu I thought was pretty good for the most part yesterday. Let Cam Bragg do the kind of high energy part and mopped up around him, which I think is exactly how it should be when you've got 2 players with the kind of characteristics that they've got together.
Yeah. Tom, any standouts for you from the 2 games?
Yeah, I think it's only Cam Archer, wasn't it, who started both, and it's definitely not going to be him against my nomination, unfortunately. A player just generally the last few weeks, I know you've said it before, and here guys, I think he's just impressed me so much with his performances, is Flynn Downs. I mean, and I thought against Watford, we really missed him when he got injured. So for him to then play as he did midweek at Leicester, with all those painkillers and things that you mentioned earlier, Alfie, I just think, he kind of feels like we got the Flynn Downs back that we sort of remember. But can't really be him as well because of obviously didn't play any part yesterday. So I think probably James Bree would be the nomination that I would give there. Clearly had an impact on. But I mean, interesting that the second half midweek again. I don't know. I mean, he had an absolute nightmare, the Leicester left back with Luke Thomas, didn't he, on Wednesday night? And I think part of that was because Bree was just surging forward in that second half. And I think he sort of surprises me sometimes, because he's clearly a very good defender, very reliable. I sometimes think, okay, he's a bit limited going forward in some ways, but I think actually, he does offer quite a lot going forward. So he'd be my shout.
Well, John Derecker said that you about to mention his contract with him, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
There you go, see. I could do your job if you want. John Derecker, he said, we asked him, will he get a new deal in the summer? And he said, obviously, that's not a question for me. That's a question for Johannes, as always. But he did say he's made his opinion known to the club, and he's obviously loved to work with him. So I think very clearly Tonda wants James Bree to stay beyond this year. I mean, obviously, Nathan Jones said he looks, he said he wants to stay at Charlton, don't want to go back to Southampton. I don't see that. He looks pretty happy to me. He's making a big contribution, working hard. So could Nathan Jones be wrong about something? Finally, possibly.
I think if he's playing games, he'd be happy, wouldn't he? Alfie, any names for you? Do you want to put anyone else on the list?
I think on the balance of both, again, obviously Cam Bragg, obviously man of the match from yesterday. But I think on the balance of both games, Matski has probably made the biggest impact for me. Obviously made a real difference coming on for some fellows midweek, and I thought he did well again yesterday. So really pushing for a starting place.
Nice one. All right, we'll get that on social media. So in terms of the 5th round draw, then that's tomorrow night. We're ball number 4. If it is going to be Liverpool, they're ball number 1. Any preference? Alfie, is there anywhere just close to home again?
I'll say exactly what Tonda said, and I think that he said, I don't care who it is as long as they're at home. And I think that's very much the motive of them. As long as they're at home and it's not another long trip for the team, then yeah, I'll be happy with that. Are Everton still in it? Because I'm still gunning for Everton away if they are.
They're gone.
They're gone. Okay. At home, please.
Fair enough. Anything else on the game from yesterday before we move on?
Well, I did want to say, obviously we banter about the psychologists and stuff in the last couple of episodes, but I think that the work they've done in the transfer window, obviously unglamorous though it may be, I think we sort of said at the time that we needed to reduce the size of the squad and maybe ship a couple of hanger-ons out. And I do believe we're really seeing the impact of that now. I hope we are anyway. It feels like we are. It feels like the place has obviously got that buzz back. And yes, we've won 4 games in a row, so obviously it's going to have that naturally. But just being able to bring on the likes of, Debaga and Nico Kunle and Barnaby Williams in a game like yesterday, although obviously clearly it made the team, weaker in a sense. They did the job, but it didn't strengthen the team. That's much better, I think, than seeing Ryan Fraser, who I've got a lot of respect for, come on again, or Rebo or Adam Armstrong. All these players I've got a lot of respect for, but they're finished here. What's the point of having them come on for games like this, hanging around? It's much better to see those young lads come on, I thought.
Yeah.
Is there one, Alfie? I was just going to ask, because I know you see a lot of them. Is there one or two of those young ones that you think we really should be watching out for? The one you think might make the bigger long-term impact sort of?
Yeah, I think obviously, if you asked me 6 months ago, I said Moses Cisse, but I think with this position change, it seems he's slightly fallen down the pecking order. It doesn't seem like it's going to be him. To be honest, out of the guys we saw yesterday, I mean, Debaga was the most impressive. He's obviously got a lot of pace, not necessarily a goal scorer, but he's got a bit about him. Nico Kunle is the one who's always going to score goals, but it's actually a lad called Harry Gathercole who I'm thinking could be the next one up, who's still playing for 21s. I think he's 17 or 18-year-old midfielder, but he scored about 15 goals from midfield last season and the under-18s level. So when Harry Gathercole gets to the age where he's sort of physically ready to have a few minutes, that's the one that I'm going to be looking out for.
It's exciting times, so isn't it, Tom? It's like when we were first started watching Saints and all the young players were coming through.
Yeah, and it was like I'd caught a bit of Cam Bragg's interview post-match, and he speaks really well, doesn't he? I know that's something people always say, but he had that. I think he had a joke about when he was man of the match in the under-14s or something, and it was Romeu that kind of presented him with the award up in the box, and they can't believe playing alongside him and all that, and yeah, he's obviously had that kind of academy heritage drilled into him, but I think there's there's 2 points about that. One, as Alfie said, that you've got, if those are the lads filling your bench, they're definitely not, the people sort of moping about the place, wanting a move or anything like that. They're going to be loving every second of being there, and that I'm sure that's infectious, that kind of enthusiasm, and also to be in that position to be able to take the sort of risk, I suppose, that Tonda did as well. Is really nice, isn't it? Because it sort of feels as though it's almost been like any game might be the manager's last so often over the last few years, and actually, we're not talking in those terms at the moment, which is great. So yeah, long may that continue.
We should probably say, Tom, you weren't at the game yesterday. Do you want to come clean and tell us where you were?
No, I'm a little bit ashamed to say, but it did turn out to be quite a fun afternoon. Yeah, I was at Fratton Park. I was being paid to be there. So
working, yeah,
wouldn't have gone by choice. Yeah, and there was the most entertaining part of the afternoon for me by far was when Danny Ings went out to warm up in front of the Fratton end. I mean, he didn't come on, but he was sort of conducting their lovely songs that they were singing right at him. And I did wonder, there was something I saw before the game that I think that Marlon Pack, the club captain, had to come out because they were in serious danger of fine or points deduction and things, both for all the stuff that was thrown at our players in the derby and then at the West Brom game, and they sort of had to do a plea to their fans to not do that. So I mean, Ings was quite bold, to be honest. He wasn't shying away from it, and he was extra long kind of warm up. So so when the last minute goal went in for Sheffield United, I'm sure probably he and I were the were the people with a cheeky grin on our faces. But yeah, they were quite lucky, Pompey. They played reasonably well and absolutely didn't deserve to lose. Probably deserved to win the game, but they have Colby Bishop up front, so they don't score any goals. I wasn't there, but I will be there on Saturday, so looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Leicester were quite happy with that goal going in as well. Obviously, a consequence of them playing in the Cup yesterday was they actually dropped into the bottom 3 in the Championship, Leicester, and they haven't got any games in hand, whereas Pompey have got 2 games in hand above them, and obviously they've got West Brom and Blackburn who are also in the shout. So there is a genuine possibility that one of Leicester or Portsmouth go down. I'd be very happy to see either. But at the moment, Leicester is such a basket case that it might be them. Unthinkable, but it might be.
Do you think they will, Steve? Do you think, because obviously Blackburn have got new manager, haven't they? And is it Stephen Davis is there as well helping out?
He is.
Yeah, he's on. Because it's Michael O'Neill is the Blackburn manager, and kind of taking two jobs.
Proper old school.
Simultaneously with the Northern Ireland international gig. But yeah, he's got Stephen Davis helping him out in the backroom staff, so that'll be interesting.
Decent.
Yeah, I mean, and they obviously new manager bounce. They started off with a 3-1 win at QPR, although it sounded like the first two goals basically came from their only two shots at that point in the game. So it was one of those ones where they've kind of stuck in and just nailed it on the break. Which for a team struggling, I think you go away from home and you dig out that sort of result, you're absolutely delighted, aren't you? So yeah, fair play to them. I think Blackburn have got plenty of quality there. There's just, I mean, they're another club that where off the pitch they're an absolute mess.
Also with Blackburn, it feels like a long time coming. Like it feels like Blackburn have been there or thereabouts. I know they actually qualified for the playoffs, or they were there or thereabouts a couple of seasons ago. But it feels like if Blackburn go down, that's not going to surprise anyone. Whereas if Leicester down,
and they have been down as well. Blackburn did go down 5-6 years ago, I think. Okay. But they came straight back up, as you would expect a club of their sort of stature to do so. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, you look at all those teams that are kind of vying for, if we assume that obviously Wednesday are done and probably Oxford too, you've got 5 or 6 teams vying for that one spot, haven't you? With West Brom down there as well, who look like a complete train wreck. They seem to be absolutely desperate to appoint young managers who don't really. It just doesn't feel like they've got the kind of way to motivate these players or just grind results out. They're trying to be too ideological, which obviously sounds very familiar to many of us.
Too clever.
But you can't. I mean, it's all well and good being in that having that kind of ideal when you're mid-table, when you should be at the top. But if you're a team that should be at least mid-table, but you're struggling down the bottom. Retaining those sort of ideals and sort of policies and this, that, and the other, I kind of think you're on a hide into nothing there, and I think there's trouble brewing at the Hawthorns, I suspect, and they may be the ones to go. I think Charlton probably just can grind out enough results.
Yeah, they get results.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously beat Stoke 1-0 during the week, and which Nathan Jones obviously absolutely loved.
Well, before you get into Nathan Jones, let's just we will obviously have to talk about him because we've got Charlton next, and there are there's a key run of games coming up for us, so we need to look ahead to that one. I just want to say thanks to everyone who's sponsored either Alfie, myself, or Alex this week as well for Benali on tour. We've had a few sponsorships drop in this week. Francis Benali's doing his big fundraiser for the Saints Foundation at the end of the season. This year, it's the 10 Lake District Summits, which I never even knew was a thing, but it's the final weekend of the season, raising money for the Saints Foundation. Alfie and I are doing it. Alex is going to be doing it as well. He's our producer. We've shared the fundraising link in the description for the podcast and on YouTube. So if you're at St Catherine's Hill in Winchester today, that was me walking up and down 6 times.
I was going to do that as well. Yeah, like it was raining, so I didn't bother, but I was going to.
Oh, it was awful. Amazing. It was absolutely awful. They've redone the steps, but it was hard work today. Any money you can donate is greatly appreciated. We're aiming to raise £2,250 as a team for the Saints Foundation. So thank you again if you have sponsored us. So it's back to the business of trying to reach the playoffs on Saturday. Nathan Jones is going to be back at St Mary's with his Charlton side. I mean, Tom, that 5-1 win back in November, 3-0 inside 20 minutes. We're not going to see a game like that, are we? But it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think just having a look at their results and the sort of stats around them and things recent games, I think it'd be very different, Martin, like you say. I mean, on paper, it looks to me like it could be something like that Watford game. I think they're on a decent run, aren't they? Haven't conceded at all in their last 3 games. Yeah. And as we've sort of said, probably relegation fears eased a bit, really. Obviously, that won't, take any of the sort of spice away from this game as far as Nathan Jones is concerned. He'll be absolutely desperate to beat us. We'll provide Alfie and I with lots of fun and games in the post-match conference, I'm sure, afterwards, whatever happens. But yeah, I mean, I think, those games that they've won, I mean, at Leicester, it was a Coley I can't believe that figure. You say he cost Steve. Yeah, he was sent off after 15 minutes or something, I think, wasn't he? But they still kind of pretty much even possession, I think. And then was at QPR and at Stoke, they had 30-40% possession. So that probably is, I've seen a bit of them this season. I saw them play at Pompey as well earlier in the season. I don't think they offer much going forward. I think, is it Sonny Carey? I think got about 7 goals, their top goal scorer. So I'm sure he'll have them fighting for everything, packed behind the ball, looking for an opportunity on a set piece or on the break. And, it's one where we're going to have to be patient and, hopefully as supporters not get too frustrated. And it might be, again, a set piece or something like that gets us over the line. But I mean, we should be feeling really confident. We've absolutely got a lot more quality than they have. So, an early goal would be absolutely perfect for this game, I think.
And it's important, Alfie, just to reiterate, we're going to be well rested for this, aren't we? They've got a game on Tuesday night. I think they play Pompey on Tuesday. So they've had a league game at the weekend. They play on Tuesday. And then, huge game. So we haven't got any excuses. So you'd expect us to return to the starting 11 that we saw last time out in the league?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe Matsky will start, maybe 1 or 2 here and there, but no, I would have thought it would go back to type. And I totally agree with Tom that the pressure's on now in a sense because it's totally reachable. Even after this round of games, it's sort of 2 points off the top 6. I noticed now that Millwall, Hull, and Derby are all in the top 6, and obviously all teams who've beaten us this season, but all teams who I don't think anybody would have. I mean, maybe Millwall, but they wouldn't have had them third. So I think it's wide open for a team to get in there, and it's obviously going to be so important for Saints to, if they can, just sneak some in. I wouldn't expect Nathan Jones to come in and play the way he did in November. He is a manager who learns. He is a manager who adapts. He obviously went hell for leather with this sort of high press man-to-man system and got blown apart in 50 minutes. Had to sub one of his players off, all this sort of thing. He won't do that again. There's no way that he'll want to suffer that kind of humiliation again, especially in Southampton, presumably in front of his Southampton supporting in-laws, who obviously were famously mentioned when he got the job 4 years ago. So I expect a very different game, but the vibe around the place is totally different. With that refreshment, with all these results, it feels good. I can't wait for the game. I'm so pleased it's at home. I think a lot of fans will be looking forward to it. I think the attendance for the Leicester game was 17,500, was it, Steve? It did feel flat, but I wonder how many of those bought tickets in between Tuesday night and Saturday. It might have even been much less than that had it not been for that. I did also want to talk about sort of some numbers and stuff. I've been speaking to a couple of people today and about what's important. If we can somehow sneak into these top 6 and just get up, a lot of people are talking about do we want to even be in the Premier League? Won't be ready for it, all this sort of thing. We're just going to get smashed every week. I'd rather be in the Championship and go again, build next season. But having a chat, it sounds like this season's going to cost, probably cost the owners up to sort of £80 million in shareholdings, in direct cash to put into the club to try and keep things going. Because in the Premier League, you can refinance the way you do things against the strength of the club, against the guarantees and all of the money coming in. In the Championship, that £80 million loan that we took out during COVID all the time, you've got to start paying those debts back in the Championship because those creditors think, well, there's no guarantee of money. We want our money back now, while you can still pay it, sort of thing. And I know there was sort of disagreements at Saints, even in the summer, about how much they sort of over-invested in the squad in the end, I think particularly by pushing Leo Senzo over the line at the last minute. I think those people who are sort of in two minds about whether they even want to get up there, you've got to realise the bigger picture, I guess. But we've got a long way to go, but it's definitely game on. It's definitely game on.
So financially, just getting up and then getting hammered every week is going to be worth it because
obviously, hopefully, you do a Sunday
with the parachute payments.
Hopefully, you do a Sunday and you don't get hammered every week, and that's always the dream, isn't it? But it has to be the ambition, and I think supporters need to recognise it, and I'm sure they all do. But there's a lot riding on this, and hopefully, we can get up and do it.
It'd be good to see Nathan Jones, Steve. I mean, credit where it's due. He did give us one of the all-time great football quotes. The one I want to test myself on every level, and that's nothing against Welsh women. That still crops up every now and again. And the one about statistically being the best manager in Europe. And he certainly enjoyed that win over Stoke on Saturday. And it would just be awful to see that here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it'd be very different where, he was only giving it to about 1,100 travelling away fans at the Valley. But the last thing anybody at Southampton needs is Nathan Jones coming in and leaving with his leaving and somehow managing to squeeze his overinflated ego out through the door. Look, as you say, you look at the two squads side by side, and there's no real comparison. I think you would say man for man across every single position. we are better. But you've still got to go into this and get the job done.
Yeah.
And in fairness, last handful of weeks, we've played against teams who are kind of either on a par with us in the league or slightly below us, and generally we've matched up quite well. Even the games where we've perhaps not been able to create loads, we've kept ourselves in games. We've not let ourselves be bullied out of them, which certainly would have been a criticism of this side earlier in the season. So I would expect this squad to be sort of well briefed on what they can expect from Charlton, because as Alfie said, it won't be what they did at the Valley. It will be very, very different. And yeah, you're going to have to beat a team playing a proper low block. I mean, if you can get a block that's as low as underneath the pitch, then I think that's what Charlton will play. If they can get away with it. And I think if we have to grind out another 1-0 win, then fine. It's 3 points, and it's 3 points on the route to what we want to try and strive for, which is that top 6 now. It does look as if, as you say, those 3 sort of upper sides in the playoffs are kind of created a little bit of a gap. So between 5th and 6th, I think it's about 7.
They have, but it's only 8 points. 8 points from us to Ipswich in 4th, and therefore obviously Hull in 5th as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, 8 points is a lot, but we seem to be turning over these sort of big point differences quite quickly when we get in a flow. So
these teams are obviously playing each other quite a lot. I mean, if you think tomorrow night it's Coventry Middlesbrough, it's a huge game, because that could be kind of the game which kind of puts to bed any doubt as to whether Coventry are shitting themselves. If Middlesbrough go there and win, Coventry are done. That's my kind of hot take from that game. If Middlesbrough go there and win, and Coventry's kind of mindset is going to be, oh God, we were 16 points clear of these guys only about 3 months ago, and now they're 4 points clear of us. That would be an absolute disaster for them. So
I can see why supporters say, I want to be in the Championship, though, because this is so much fun. I know it's obviously agony to watch and be a part of, but the topsy-turvy nature of it all is brilliant. You don't get this anywhere else.
Yeah, and we've completely changed our tune in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah. Tom, this is the start of a really important run. We've got obviously Charlton, there's QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, Norwich, which is obviously going to get rearranged, West Brom as well. We've spoken about it for the last couple of weeks. Can we dare to dream? Do you think 6th place, maybe 5th is doable?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I'm not always the most sort of half-class full person when it comes to these things.
Welcome.
But I mean, I think partly because, as we were saying earlier, you know, there's so much more certainty in the team now. You know, I mean, the back 4, of course, which we've done to death, but I think we all know what that back 4 will be if everyone's fit. And then, you know, I mean, 3 really top centre midfielders to choose between. And I mean, I do think that seems to be making, you know, a huge difference, really. I mean, it's, you know, you always look, and I don't know about you, I'm always looking at the league table and saying, we could so easily have had 5 more points than we've got without really being any better than we were and stuff. And then you're just that little bit closer. But, you know, we sort of, you guys spoke, I thought, really well a few weeks ago about having to, you know, sort of keep compensating for mistakes they'd made earlier in the season, you know, for the wrong signings, you know, the wrong managerial appointments. And it feels as though this is the first time in a long time where, you know, we kind of are going to go along to these games knowing what to expect. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely think, you know, the away form was a real worry for a while, and we look at, you know, a bit more resilient and things now. The first half at Leicester, perhaps not the case, but otherwise, you know, fairly solid. So yeah, I mean, we absolutely have to believe it's probably not quite as strong a Championship as that has been in the last few years, are there? So I mean, you know, when we're talking about, absolutely no disrespect to them, the kind of teams we might chase down, as Alfie said, Hull, Millwall, you know, it wasn't kind of like, you know, the season we did get promoted where it just felt like, you know, Leeds, Leicester, they weren't sort of dropping any points really. So I absolutely, I think we, you know, 6th should be the minimum target really now. And if we get there, I mean, I guess that's another reason. If we're getting way too far ahead, but if we finish sixth, I don't know if we, is there that much between the teams that are likely to be third, fourth, and fifth?
Well, the only danger is we're miles ahead of ourselves here, as you just said. But for example, Ipswich were to finish third, which is quite plausible, Coventry second, Middlesbrough, that would be a much tougher game, I would argue. Even though we've been beaten by Millwall, Hull, and Derby, I feel like you don't want to play Ipswich.
No, we haven't lost to Derby.
It felt like a defeat because we should have beat them. But yeah, I'm sure we lost to them. But maybe I've completely misremembered that. 1-1 was it?
1-1.
1-1. Yeah, there you go.
That was when Ross Stewart did a diving header and injured himself for 3 months.
Yeah, Leo Senza came off after 60 minutes, didn't he? And that wasn't very well received by the fans. Yeah, so I'd much rather play one of those three than Ipswich, for example. But again, we're miles ahead of ourselves. Let's actually get there first.
Let's do some score predictions, shall we? Last time out, which was the Leicester game in the league, 48 people predicted that we would win. But surprisingly, nobody called the 4-3 scoreline. Nobody decided to go with that, so Charlton then unbeaten in their last 3 games. Steve, how do you see this playing out?
I think it's not going to be one for the purists, that's for sure. It's going to be an ugly game by their definition. They are going to be more than happy to mix it and try and make it as difficult for us as possible, which is fine. They're entitled to do that within the scope of the laws and all that. Hopefully we've got a strong referee who doesn't let them get away with anything that's sort of beyond the line. But we've got the quality, and ultimately it's down to us to now start making it pay. They've pretty much all the guys who are going to start that game have basically had this week off. Should all be fit and raring to go, hopefully. So I am going to go for a relatively comfortable 2-0 win.
Okay, loving this. Alfie?
Well, I'm reading the comments as they come in as well, and I'm minded to agree with Paul Garrett on a 3-0 win for Saints. I just think that we're on such a buzz. Rest, recovery, all that sort of important stuff. Ross Stewart still fit; he's so important. But I'll play it more sensible.
I thought you were going to
go. I'll go for the 1-0 win. I'll say that Nathan Jones is camped up for 90 minutes, and we've sneaked one towards the end.
He'd be chewing through his fingernails. Tom?
Oh yeah, I was thinking 1-0 or 2-0, and I think it could be interesting. Leo Cienza up against Kane Ramsey. If he gets them too hyped up, old Nate, then maybe they'll lose a player early on or something.
Yeah.
We do look a lot more solid. 2-1 Saints, I'll go for. Yeah, fancy us to win it for sure.
2-1. All right, nice one. If you want to play along, all you need is your Patreon login, and you can find the leaderboard and how to play on the website. So head to totalsaints.co.uk. A couple of other bits, I guess, before we finish. Steve, great win for the women's team today, and they're within sort of touching distance of the playoffs as well.
Yep, 2 points off the playoffs. I think the 2 teams directly above them have got a game in hand. So they're still outsiders for that place. And as we mentioned possibly last week, they've probably got to win pretty much all their remaining games. I think to give them a realistic shout of sneaking into that playoff spot. But excellent win away at Bristol City. It's our relationship with Bristol City is very odd in that we seem to be able to go to Ashton Gate and very often get a positive result, but either in the cup or at home, we don't seem to be able to beat them. Good win on the road. They're both goals in injury time at the end of each half. So suggests a bit of staying power as well, which is useful for the remainder of the season. So on to the next one.
Happy days. Anything else?
A couple of bits of injury news, mine. Mads Roslev's gone in for surgery, and he looks like he'll miss the rest of the season. So, as we spoke about on the podcast, I think a couple of times now, we kept getting told, "Oh, he's near it, and he's coming back." But I think we were told months ago that actually he's in a bit of trouble. This Achilles bursitis, so he's had surgery on it, which hopefully that fixes it, solves it. But it means he's out for the rest of the season. The other one is that Jack Stevens is gone in for a scan as well. And was not available on the weekend. Tom the Record said he hopes he'll be fine for next week against Charlton, but it's one to watch there. Might be an enforced change at the back. He also mentioned Wellington.
He was limping, wasn't he, at the end of the Leicester game? I think I saw, because I know they obviously took him off, didn't they? Yeah,
he said that he went in for a scan as well as Jack, and he was going to miss this weekend. So there is the potential that both those players were out, obviously, and then it would force change at the back. But obviously, Ryan Manning's done well in the last couple of games, and you've got Nathan Wood-Kwashi. But fingers crossed, both of them are fine for Charlton. But it's just one to keep an eye on when you see the team sheets.
We also don't believe a word he says either. I don't know about you, but it's not like.
I mean, Wellington absolutely flies into every tackle, doesn't he? Which I like. But you sort of sometimes I do find myself thinking, oh, is he going to get up from that one? I mean, he seems pretty tough, but yeah, like Downs, he just he takes absolutely everything with the ball, doesn't he? So
yeah, no, he's been a hell of a player. Thank you, guys. Anything else?
I think that'll be all.
Yep. It'd be nice not to chat about Leicester for at least 1 week now. So, nice. You can follow the Total Saints podcast on all the social media platforms. It's at Total Saints Pod. You can check out the merch store as well. It's shop.totalsaints.co.uk. We're still flogging the 1976 hoodies as well, and the t-shirts. If you want to find out more about those, shop.totalsaints.co.uk. As I mentioned right at the start, you'll also find us in Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with your monthly contribution. You head to patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast, and the different tiers come with different perks, including shout outs when we do our weekly credits for patrons in the Francis Benali and the Mick Shannon tier. So thanks to Dave Melton, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nicky Nicholson, Peter Montalabo, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, James Kibbe, Red 76 Tax, Michael Blackmer, David Mansell, Nick Gardner, John Collison, Voice FM, Andrew Steele, and now James Ravenscroft, who are in our Francis Benali tier. And also thanks to Nick Reed, Dave Ernsberger, Nick Kingston, Phil Cook, Jonathan Cooper, Colt Baker, Anthony Thompson, Matt Hall, Mike Etheridge, Phil Horstrup, Mark Littlewood, James Bobin, John Bevan, Frank Thorpe, John Peacock, and Andy, who are in our Mick Shannon tier. Thanks as well to Paul Castle Associates and Steamtown Brewery for sponsoring TSP. Thank you to Steve. Thanks to Alfie. Thanks to Tom for jumping on as well. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you again next Sunday night at 7 o'clock.